Medium.
Okay, I think we're good now. I had the other window open, so that was. Can you hear
Okay,
me okay?
I
I,
hear
I don't
you.
know if I'm streaming or not, but
You're good.
all right, cool. All right, this is fun. All right,
Now,
we'll just chat amongst ourselves then until some others join us.
do you leave a page up that's looking at the YouTube front page? I'll,
Um,
I'll I'll present my screen and show it to you. Okay.
sure. Okay, yeah, do that.
Okay. So you see here, there's just a regular YouTube page, and
Hmm.
I see that I'm on, and I see what was on. And I don't know if you go to YouTube, so I'm gonna back up. Let's see what happened when I back up one more time. Back up. There's Google. When I go right into YouTube, come on, McFly, YouTube. There we go.
Ah, okay. Yes, I'm streaming.
Oh, and
Cool.
does it show you streaming?
Yes, it does.
Okay, I'm looking for you, and I don't know why I don't see you because I follow you. Huh?
Yep, it says that I'm streaming. So
Good.
says
That's all that matters.
I just put in there live with Carnivore Scott after party. Is what I
Okay.
put for my
Okay.
title. So it just has a black it doesn't have a thumbnail, but it just says my metamorphosis on there. So
Okay. Well,
yeah, but
I'll
that's
look
cool.
for. As long as you're streaming, that's what matters.
Yes, this is awesome. Yes, I just got the full version yesterday, and so I've been reading up on it and playing with it. So I like college football. I really
Hmm.
do, but I just didn't watch any today, which is sacrilege here in SEC country.
Yes. Yes.
uh, yeah, I broke some really big time cardinal rules here by not watching, but I'll have plenty of time the rest of the season to catch up. But I got to playing with getting my YouTube account connected with StreamYard and all that good stuff, and just reading up on how to do things. So,
Right. I had a little bit of a fit, and then I found out I was going into a Google account. So I guess I have my Google account, I have my main account, and then under my main account, I have my Carnivore Scott account. Well, I
yep.
was trying to log into Carnivore Scott, and it was trying to open up a whole new instance. Hello, low carb carnivore, welcome. And so when I went back to my main account, everything worked, and I
Mhm.
just got the not the full up, not the $39 a month, but the $25 a month.
Mhm.
I just got that 5 minutes ago.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well, I was running out of the free one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that'll happen. I went ahead and got the $35 a month one. I think is what it is, but I just paid it the lump sum and just did it that way. And then that way I don't have to think about it anymore until next year.
So now, how
Um,
long have you been? How long have you been a part of this uh, uh, Ketovore online community?
the online community about 2 months. I've been a part of Dr. Barry's group, just his proper human diet private group. But yeah, partially I didn't think anybody would be very interested in my story because most people it's not relatable to a lot of people. They can't comprehend somebody losing too much weight. But I wanted to tell people about my story because I had suffered from at times debilitating anxiety since I was about 20, and I'm 57. So and I started low carb in 2015. Well,
Right.
then I gradually just worked my way and kind of stumbled into carnivore. I had a neighbor he works for a food supply company and gave me some like boxes of ground beef and bacon and stuff like that. And so I was just eating on that food and I wasn't cooking any vegetables. And quite honestly, I'm not going to say I'm a bad cook. I just don't enjoy it. So I do the least amount of cooking possible, which is sad, but there you go. That's me. And so, but anyway, so I started watching some YouTube videos. about carnivore around the I guess it was maybe about a month or so after I had started carnivore, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm carnivore." Well, okay, and so then I started following the community, and then Dr. Barry and his group, he was encouraging people. He says, "You need to tell your story. If you've got some kind of a victory or something, we need to get the
Right.
word out about low carb and keto and the whole proper human diet spectrum." And I was like, "Well, the anxiety was terrible." Um, I didn't have it constantly and it would ebb and flow, but I always had anxiety to a certain extent. And I don't know what caused it to just suddenly flare up when I was 20, but it did. And it was awful. And I suffered in silence. I never told anybody. I just sucked it up, and just so now I feel so free and I just want to tell everybody. And so that's why I started my channel. So I've been doing it. I started my channel in late June. It was like the last weekend of June, I think, was when I started it. And I'm just wanting to get the word out. I just want people to know. And then I'm also documenting my journey on just how I can lift heavy things and build up a little bit of muscle.
Right.
So that it's kind of both of those things, and just any other interesting topics that I can come up with and run into. Like, for example, I had an interesting topic the other day about the fact that, and I know I must be living under a rock. I must be, but I didn't know that there was not a meat group anymore in the food groups. No, there's not. I was doing research for another video that I've been working on, and I was looking up some nutrition values for food, and I came across this website that was talking about a nutritionist exam. It was like flashcards for this nutritionist exam. And what caught my eye was it was saying something about which one of these is not a part of the meat group. And the answer was like broccoli. And the thing is, on the list, it had other things that were a part of the meat group, and it was beans and beans and legumes and like tofu. And I'm like, wait a minute. And so then that led me down another rabbit hole into finding the My Plate. And now it's just a protein group. And they have a statement on there that says, if you're vegetarian, disregard the recommendation to eat meat. And I'm just like, so yes, there's no more meat group anymore.
Well,
That's because the cabal that's in charge doesn't want us to eat meat.
Exactly.
They want us to eat that fake garbage that they're manufacturing with God knows what in it.
You are so right
Bill
about
Gates,
that.
Bill Gates, Al Gore, all of that bunch that's all on the climate change train. And they're trying to tie it all together with the cows and the flatulence and it's all a bunch of propaganda for them to make money.
Oh, I know. It's terrible. It's ridiculous.
And the thing that gets to me about all that is, if they're so against meat, then why do they work so hard to make what they are making taste like meat?
Sorry, I'm not yelling at you. You got me fired up on this one.
That's okay. That's okay.
Meat. They want to eat their steaks. You think Bill Gates is going without his steak?
He ain't eating bugs.
No, he ain't eating bugs for sure. And but
he
this
ate
is the
steak
thing.
Every time he was on that plane to Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Oh, I'm sure he had him some steaks. But here's the funny thing. Like, this was several years ago before the big virus, and when we were still in the office. And I was bringing my bacon and eggs because that's what I had started. I mean, I've had bacon and eggs for breakfast, if I had breakfast, since 2015. And so I brought my bacon in there to warm it up. I had like just hard-boiled eggs. And this girl comes in, and she's She says, "Oh, you're eating bacon." And I said, "Yes, bacon's its own food group. It's awesome, you know." And she
It's meat
had this
candy.
box of sausages, and they were fake sausages. And I said, "Can I see that package?" And so she handed it to me, and I read, and I mean the ingredients, the words had like a whole alphabet. It looked like the alphabet threw up, and you couldn't even pronounce the words. And I was just going, and I told her, I said, "Well, this is full of stuff that I can't even pronounce." I said, "My bacon's got one ingredient, and that's bacon." You know,
So they think they're being so noble by being vegan or vegetarian, whatever they are.
oh,
And
she was
then
snooty
they go
to
and
me.
put that poison in their body that they can't even pronounce from their foods to
I
make up
know,
for what they're not eating.
That's right. That's right. It's
I
crazy,
know.
but I think the thing that's important for us is, we can rail against the machine, but and that will have a certain amount of efficacy. But I think the best way to defeat that whole storyline, if you would, is by us doing what we're doing now, going out in
Yes,
public and being who we are, having our success stories championed. And I like what you're saying, Carrie, because I think very often we always focus on a weight loss, or we focus on a remodeling of the body into a smaller package, and very few people out there dealing with the fact of underweight. You've got Sophie eats steak. She's 16. She suffers from anorexia. She's eating steak to overcome it. And so,
hmm,
what I think is amazing is when you can approach problems using the same, or when you have multiple problems that have different origins, but the same modality
yes,
applies to both of them. So now you're starting to get solutions that apply over multiple silos, right? Now you're getting to what we call, I shudder to say, truth, right?
hmm,
Truth will make a person who is adipose gifted and a person underweight healthy. So why do you attack it, right? We don't have to get into the attack game or the blame game. All we do is say, look, try this, try it for
hmm,
2 weeks, try it for 30 days, and really try it. And guess what?
um,
Come back to us. And I tell people I'm on an elimination diet so I don't get the crazy looks.
oh yeah,
Exactly.
But you know what? I went with my friend. My friend's in town. We went to Cracker Barrel this morning. You're not getting a Cracker Barrel meal without 50% of it being in carbs, right?
right.
But I ordered the old boy breakfast. So the waitress told me, let's just order the old boy breakfast. And I gave away the apples, and the fried apples, and I gave away the grits, and I gave away the biscuits, and I had bacon and eggs and
Mhm.
sausage. I'm like, and I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
good. I don't have to explain myself. I'm 61 years old. I've been on fire. I've been shot at. I've been stabbed. I've been run over. And you know what? I don't owe anybody any excuses for what I choose to put in my mouth.
and
And
what I choose to do too is, in my younger years, I don't know, I was a little more passive and that kind of thing. And as I've gotten older, though, I have found, well, I sort of evolved into then kind of getting a little more opinionated. And then I've backed up and I'm like, you know what? Live by quiet example and love people.
yes,
And when you
yes,
do that, when you truly have a heart to help others and you just live by example. And I have a my brother, he is low carb now because, and I didn't nag him. He suffered also with anxiety, and he's noticed that his anxiety is getting better. But he brought
amen,
over the other night. He came over to my house and he asked me what I wanted from Five Guys, and I just said I just want burger patties. And so he brought a bag of burger patties. And I said, "Well, what'd you get?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to just eat that." He says, "I'm not eating bread anymore." And I was like, Oh, well, good for you.
Hallelujah.
He says, yeah. And
Yeah.
he says, I feel better. And so, but I didn't just say, well, but I've told about, because I knew he was anxious.
Right.
And I said, I just feel so much better since I've been eating this way. Keto, low carb and keto helped a lot. But I said, my anxiety is totally gone now. And, if you're an anxious person and you hear somebody say that, you're like, oh, really? Tell me more. I want to know. And so then I have another friend who is also gone, and so far he's low carb. But, I slipped into that spectrum. And so that's a good start, is going low carb. And when people just start experiencing, they start seeing for themselves and they see what it's done for you. So you really don't even have to say much. They'll just see it and they'll know and they'll ask.
I think part of what it is eating carnivore is not what we've had pounded into our heads our whole lives.
That's
And
true.
so it's almost like you feel like you need permission from somebody to do it, to start it. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt. It's not that you actually do, but in your mind, you're going, it's like, gee, that goes against everything that I've heard all my life, but
Mm-hmm.
just it
Or
doesn't
you
mean
could
it's true.
Karen, you could even say when we were really young or when our parents were young, that was the de facto status. I mean, I remember hearing about a meat and potatoes guy and mainly potatoes. And, I thought today I had a little bit of I don't want to say an epiphany, but, it's a nice word. I'll use it. And that
Sure.
is children, we say out of the mouths of the babe, children are brutally honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And children
I
will
got
tell
a
you,
story about that. Go
children will
ahead.
tell you, I don't like vegetables.
Yes.
And my mama, I love my mama, God rest her soul.
Mm-hmm.
She creamed everything so we would eat it. And I want to tell you what,
Oh,
if you cream shoe leather and put hard boiled eggs in with it, I'll eat it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that didn't mean it was a winning combination. Now, we grew up a little low on the hog. We did not grow high up in the hog, you know what I'm saying?
Oh
And
yeah,
so,
I understand. Believe me.
so it was good, and I'm blessed to be here today because of it. But I will tell you what Karen said. If we dissected it and looked at it at an absolute value, it would be our grandparents and the people before them were looked at you like you were stupid as the day is long if you said no. Please, 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 no. You keep the meat. I'm just going to eat the rabbit food.
Mm-hmm. That's
Because
true.
everywhere
well,
else you
here,
go in the world and all time, only bad hunters ate vegetables.
Exactly.
yes.
And what they tell us to eat nowadays is what used to be food for slaves and for the servants and stuff like that. Like back even just,
That's why
like
black people
150
eat
years
greens,
ago.
because that was one of the only things that the slave owners would give them to eat. So they learned how to make it good. But check
But the
this
other
out.
thing they ate, but the other thing they ate too, and if we got to be real careful, they ate a lot of organ meat and they ate chitlins and they ate a lot
Yeah,
of fat because people
Mm-hmm.
throw that fat away, right? So
right.
Right.
the important thing is we're all here. We have Limitless Lindsay in here. We have Lon Warren here. We have Laura. We have so many, Mike Shaw. People
Hey,
are showing
Mike.
up. Jamie Livingston, thank you very
Monbar.
much. And Karen, I'd like to give you a couple minutes here, Karen. I have either been under a rock or been not paying attention, but I haven't seen you online, and I just would like to give you the floor for a minute just to introduce yourself to the group of people. We kind of meet here fairly regularly at the Scotty's after party, and
I've
I
been in
so
your
take it
know.
away.
after party before. I'm the
Yeah, I
one
know.
that usually gives you a hard time. I've just never come on the live stream.
Right.
Terry sent me the link for his, but I'd never done it before and I was scared. So I figured I'd use you for a guinea pig because you were the only two in here. So
I used him as a guinea pig earlier.
this is my first try. But my
Well, you're
name's
doing great.
Karen. I'm on day 70. I turned 66 about 6 weeks ago. I turned 66 on day 21. I still did
Okay.
Red Lobster for my birthday, but what I did instead of cheating on Carnivore, when I look at it, I think of as long as I stay in the keto range, it's okay. As
Yeah.
long as I don't go over that 30 grams. And I don't do that every day. That was just because it was my birthday and we were at Red Lobster. And I ate one Cheddar Bay biscuit because they're only 16 grams. I did my research before I went. I knew what the carbs of every single thing that I put in my mouth that day. And I was at about 24 grams. So for my birthday, I'm not going to beat that up. I even got the free chocolate cake, the chocolate on chocolate on chocolate. And then they take little mini chocolate chips and smash it into the chocolate icing. Uh, I had about a half a bite. I put a little taste on my fork, and then I gave the rest of it to my family, and they split it.
Well, I think you hit on the key part for on multiple aspects, and one is we don't want to be dogmatic because we don't want to become what vegetarians became, right? Militant, dogmatic, unyielding, hateful.
Mm-mm.
That's one. The other thing is, um, you've got to show yourself some grace. You got this is a long for lifetime thing. This is not a I'm going to gut it out. I'm going to go rocky, drink the raw eggs, lose the weight, and then because we've all done that too many times in
And
one
then when
way,
it
shape, or
ends, you
another.
binge and you go and gain it all back. Plus, it
Yep.
brings 20 friends with it.
Yeah.
But let me tell you this. This is a good story now. When I was a baby, well, we weren't well off. We were middle class. But my aunt married a butcher, my mom's sister. And so we always had access to good meat. He gave it to us, wholesale because it was his wife's sister and he better. But we always had meat. So um, my mom would let me teeth on sirloin steak bones. If
Mm-hmm.
you have ever had a sirloin steak with the bone in it, they're round. There's no sharp edges. There's not much gristle or anything that can come off and choke a baby or anything. It's just the taste of the bone. And when you're teething, that feels pretty good. And so then as I got a little bit older, as a toddler, I didn't want to eat anything. Egg whites and steak was the only two things that I would put in my mouth. They tried and tried. And back then, if you were Catholic, you had to eat fish on Friday.
Yep.
And my aunt and her husband, the butcher, were Catholic. And so Friday, my dad liked fish. My mom was okay, but she could have her patty melt or whatever. And they'd be coming around the table to see what we wanted. And I'd look at my dad and I'd say, "Can I have a steak?" He always let me have it, but he always told that story because he thought it was funny. And then he'd blame my mom for letting me tease on the steak bones. And
He
then as
ruined
I
you.
got a little bit older, probably about 6, she wasn't real vengeful and forceful about making me eat my vegetables, but she tried the can't get up from the table till you eat them crap. And so I figured out I could be a chipmunk. And I took those vegetables and I stuffed them up in here as far as I could stuff them and packed them in. But see, that's where my 6-year-old mind failed me. I went in the bathroom and I spit them out into a piece of toilet paper, and I should have flushed them, but I didn't have the wherewithal, so I threw them in the trash. And a couple days later, they started to smell real bad. Now, I don't know how old you are, Carrie, but Scott, I know you remember The Odd Couple.
I
Sure.
do.
And okay, my mom is the female version of Felix Unger. If it wasn't for the little dog, you could eat off her kitchen floor at any moment. And so her nose led her straight to that trash can with those vegetables in it, and then I was busted. But after that, I think she kind of had an epiphany and realized I just was not going to eat them. I ate potatoes and corn, of course, the two you're not supposed to eat. And And then it got to be, after that, well, I had my tonsils out when I was 5, and she said something happened. She said my diet didn't really change. I didn't even like chocolate ice cream when I was a toddler. Wouldn't eat it. Wouldn't touch it. And then after I had my tonsils out, she said something happened. I didn't eat any different, but then I started gaining weight. And then I started finding carbs. When you get out of the house and you're at school and you come home and mom gives you a little treat after school. And, this is the early 60s. So, you know, she did the best she could. And then that turned into a chubby kid. Thank God for me, there was a really fat girl in my class and she took the brunt of it, not me, the poor thing. And but yeah, I got bullied a little bit, not badly. Poor Lori Beck took all of it from me. But I was never that big. I mean, when I was in high school, I was a size 12 or 14. That's not huge. I weighed probably around 140 pounds. That's not huge. Not when you hear people, well, I was 400 pounds by the time I was a freshman, and so I wasn't that big. But then after I got out of mom's house, it just, it was like the horses were out of the pen. And then it was the constant, my whole adult life, roller coaster of, diet, then you lose it, and then you gain it back with its 20 friends. I probably lost that same 50 pounds, I don't know how many times.
Amen. I think a lot of us are in that same boat, because what we were doing is, in my humble opinion, is we were taking an approach that never dealt with the two underlying issues. One is we weren't eating a proper human diet, or what goes into what constitutes one, and two, I hate the scale. I think the scale is a necessary invention for business, but not for healthcare, because we should put our scales and throw them away. Because if we could do things like on a non-scale, is a blouse or a shirt fitting better, or your pants fitting better, or like Carrie was saying, can you bend over and pick up something heavier that you couldn't pick up before? Can you walk? Like today, I went on another hike. I put a little short out there on my page, and I went on this hike. I went down the hill and walked a mile and up a long hill, and I was like, hey, I'm ready to go tackle another one, right? When I would have been ruined. I know that's great grammar with a T on there, ruined. But I would have been ruined before. So my non-scale victories are so much more important. I was shaving my head nice and clean. How do you like that? Low drag, right? I was shaving, and I got veins popping out of my head. I was like, well, gosh darn, I didn't know I had all that,
There's no fat there.
Yeah, no, only inside. All the fat's on the inside.
Well, look at the bright side. Nobody can call you a fathead now.
Aw, it's such a good moniker. So, Carrie, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Am I seeing comic books on the wall behind you?
Yes. Some of them are old Howard the Duck comic
I have
books.
those.
Do you really? The ones that had Kiss in them? These are the ones.
I think I have number one.
Oh, you have number one. I have the ones that I have are the ones that had Kiss in them. Howard the Duck was he was having these hallucinations, and he hallucinated Kiss, and so they're featured in some of the Howard the Duck comics. And so I've had those for probably 40 years.
Who's your favorite?
Who's my favorite Kiss person?
Yeah.
I used to love Paul. Oh gosh, I wanted to marry him. Yeah.
Well, I just said it because
I like Gene.
Oh, okay.
So the other comics, the other ones are, some of them are Kiss's comics, the ones that they actually had out. So that's what some of the other comics are. So go ahead.
No, I was going to say is I said it because so last year I filmed the last part of a web series I've been in for about 5 years, and it has a comic book that accompanies it all. And so I went to a couple Comic Cons, and if you've noticed my profile picture, kind of a dark picture, lid
Mm-hmm.
on one side, dark. That's because my character was a very, very evil, bad, not good, not at all like me, a very unloving, unfunny character. But all I had to do was go around and make people not people, and it was a fun thing to do, to be associated with a comic book series and the film that. But I just saw that my brother-in-law, he's since deceased. I think he actually probably passed away on early as a COVID victim, but he was a comic book collector, and he probably had in the neighborhood of 20,000 different comic books that we
Mm.
had to take care of. But I saw the comic books, and then just yesterday we have a hamburger joint in town that's called Superheroes or Superheroes, yeah, Superheroes.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And all over the walls of this whole restaurant, which is like a small house, maybe like a 1,500 square foot house, they converted into a restaurant. So
Mm-hmm.
they got to have 2 rooms to eat in. And every wall is covered in classic comic books. And then they
Wow.
have a couple TVs that only run Marvel movies all the time while you're in there. And they serve some of the best hamburgers in town. And so
Ooh.
anyway, I saw that, and my head just got kind of distracted. So I love the motif of your cave.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is my office. It used to be the spare bedroom, but after the virus, um, I got rid of the spare bed since, I mean, I didn't really need it, but I didn't like having my computer in my bedroom because my bedroom became my office. And so um, I converted this room. And so it's sort of my little cave where I play and I draw and, mess around. I've messed around, and this has been great. I've been wearing this shirt for periodically for a couple of weeks now, and it's been a great conversation piece because I'm really wanting to get the word out about Carnivore. And of course, anybody who's watched my channel knows that I'm a metalhead and I love my concert t-shirts, and I wear a different one every time I do a video. And so this is one I designed. This is what I wanted to do it for a living when I was young, and I ended up getting into IT. But this is my shirt. It says,
Yeah, that's
"Welcome
awesome.
to my metamorphosis."
If you don't mind me asking, how old are you, Carrie?
I'm 57.
Oh, you're not too far behind us.
Yep, I'm
Scott, you
57.
said you're 61, right?
Yeah.
And I'm 66. So yeah, you grew up in that era.
Yeah, I tell
Um,
you, I love the shirt, and I understand the draw to the concert shirts. Because if you heard me the other day, when I was a young person, the person next to me ran the special event center in our town in El Paso, Texas, and I worked a lot of concerts. I was a local roadie, and my job was to unload trucks and stack heavy things, and then unstack them and put them back in the truck when the concert was over. And that used to keep me very thin. People used to say I looked like a skeleton with wet toilet paper clinging to it, because and at 6'5", I can carry a lot of weight because I have pretty broad shoulders. And anyway, long and short of it is that I got away with murder back then, because you remember in the old days when indoor malls were all the rage,
oh yeah.
and so they'd have people that would do questionnaires, like they trap you if you made eye contact, you were dead, right? And they pull
Oh
you
yeah,
over, and
you.
they yeah, right, right. It's kind of like when people would see me in a nightclub. Anyway, they take the next question. So one time they asked us, "Well, how many sodas do you drink in the day?" And we were like, same group of us were out there. We said, well, "I don't know, anywhere between 8 to, I don't know,
Too many.
36, 42." And they're like, "What?" When you work in a concert, on all that, and you're young, and you got to stay up we'd get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to start, and we wouldn't be done till 3 in the morning. So you're talking a 22, 23 hour day. um, holy moly, would we drink a lot of caffeine and a lot of sugar.
Mm-hmm.
But when all you're doing is unloading 53-foot trucks full of amp racks for like Van Halen and Sammy Hagar and all those people, you're going to burn through more calories than you can ever measure, right?
Right.
But
it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't nourish you. That's all empty calories.
Right. And the problem is one day you don't unload the truck and you keep doing the sugar. And I was this close to not getting into the military because my blood pressure would be just almost too much, right? I was out there trying to do yoga, meditation, anything I could because I had to get in the military, right? So never knowing, hey, cut back on the 12 pack of beer and the 36 sodas and you might do okay. Did I kill the stream here? Are we okay?
No.
We're good. We're good. We're good. Or I'm good over here. I was kind of looking at the comments. I think people are confused because I'm streaming too, and so they can't see each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like there'll be a comment or something, and they're not seeing everybody. So yes, I used Scott as a guinea pig to test out. So this is my first stream, everybody. So thank you for joining through my channel. I appreciate you all. I love each and every one of you.
You know, that happens a lot. I've noticed. I was just watching Carnivore Kip the other night, and he had someone else that he was streaming with, and people couldn't. I don't know. Maybe when and Carrie, you're an IT person, but I think when people come into a certain portal or a stream, right? And then some people are on another stream because people know you, people know me. It takes a while before the two of them mesh up because I think the servers are doing a refresh every periodic time. Eventually, when we bloviate long enough, they'll sync up and all of a sudden you'll start to see the comments on both. So what I did is I actually opened up the instance of both streams in 2 tabs, and I would type something in one, copy, and then paste it into the other one, so people would see it coming back and forth. But I think until the servers start to sync up, we're going to have that. So everybody, thank you for bringing that up, Carrie. Everybody who's in Carnivore Scott's thing may not see their comments show up, or Carrie might not see them. And we'll try to talk them back and forth as we can, because the whole idea behind my concept for coming on this late is to give everybody a chance. Like Karen came in, like Carrie came in last night. Lindy came in, and Lioness Hiker came in. And it gives everybody an opportunity to practice the craft, if you would, and or express themselves, because nothing negative about our influencers. You know, Carrie, you know, Dr. Barry, he is the Kevin Bacon of the carnivore community. Everybody had 3 degrees of separation from him, right?
Exactly. Yes.
So we all can't get in on that, but I would tell you, I was personal friends for a while with Kevin Costner because I did a movie with him. And so he and Bacon did movies. So that's only 2 degrees of separation.
That's only 2.
Right. So you'd be amazed at who you know from those degrees of separation, right? But anyway, I want everybody to be patient as we work through this. And anybody, Woodster, you need to start streaming. I went ahead and I got the $20 a month. Carrie got the full up one. She got the 1080p. She's got the whole shebang. And I'm so happy for you to do that, because as more and more people do this, more and more people will become aware of it. And it won't be a fad, it won't be in the fiction shelves anymore. And I think that's awesome, because I have never met anything other than my salvation that was more important for my well-being than running into the carnivore way of life.
All right. Let's see. Do we hear?
Woodster, we'll worry about that later. And I'll throw up a comment. Okay, hey, it's Miss Carrie Person, turquoise waving. I think I recognize Karen from somewhere, maybe. Hi, RV, there yet? Are we there
Hey,
yet?
RV there yet?
There we go.
She's
There we go.
RV there yet has been with me for probably since my channel was maybe a week or two old. I mean, they've been with me for a long time. And by the way, you guys, okay, I'm going to do the typical YouTuber thing. Please, please, please hit that thumbs up button and share the videos. Share both of them. Let's get this out there. Come on, people. We can do this. And if you haven't subscribed to either of our channels, please do so. Come on now. You
Yeah,
guys got it. Come on.
Yeah, that's the only way we are going to evangelize this way of life is, multiple people coming on and multiple people saying, oh, hey, look, I know Karen, I know Scotty, I know Metamorphosis, and they're experiencing these. Well, I'm not going to use the word miraculous, but it is like a country and western song played backwards. You get your life, your girlfriend, your trailer, your truck, and your dog back.
Oh, yeah. The perfect country song.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, Sammy Whitson, married to the wonderful Danny Whitson. All right. I'm on Carrie's channel. Okay. Thank you, RV. There yet. Well, again, I'd appreciate if you'd, of course, follow me. And I want everybody to know that I don't know if this is gauche. I don't know if it's acceptable. But if somebody has their own channel out there, please feel free to put that in the comments. Feel free to let everybody know, like if you got a show coming on Tuesday, you will not offend this missing link Chewbacca kind of fella. You won't hurt my feelings by promoting yourself in my stream, because my stream is itty bitty, and I am never going to be the type of person that says you can't promote yourself, because you're important. You're important to all of us, and I appreciate it. So, I mean, I love the fact that Carrie took a risk to come out and say, hey, Scott, can I come in and play? And I'm like, heck yeah. And Karen showed up, and I just posted the link. So I love it. And I think this is the way forward for most of us.
We need to, I think all of us together, getting the word out. And what we do is, I mean, like I've subscribed to so many carnivore channels and I watch a lot of videos. So I just do. I'm going to admit it. I'm Carrie and I'm a carnivore-aholic. I just, I do. I watch and I love to encourage people. Now, I can't say much about if you're having a stall or whatever, but I can always encourage you and I can always tell you what's helped me. Like, for example, I know that I did need electrolytes in the beginning. I don't need them so much now. I can also recommend some of Dr. Berry's videos if it's a subject that I'm not familiar with. I can also definitely relate to anybody who grew up in the 1980s who was skinny as a rail and drank Weider protein powders to try to bulk up, and it never worked, who then put on about 20 pounds as an adult and then went carnivore, and now everybody thinks she's sick. I actually had somebody ask me if I was sick, and that was like, that brought back like high school memories, because like I was such a beanpole. My brother and I both, we were just such beanpoles. So yeah, and I don't feel sick. So I don't know. That was bizarre.
What's the
But
score of
anyway,
that game, Mike? What's the score of that game, Mike? Is Wyoming winning?
Them Cowboys, they'd be tough sometimes.
I turned it on because I wanted to see if Texas couldn't breathe, because that's the highest stadium. It's over 7,000 feet in all the NCAA football, but they were in a lightning delay, so I didn't sit there and listen to the commentators kill time.
Well,
and I
I
never
tell
went
you,
back to it.
Carrie, I'm right there with you. I wanted to be just like Arnold
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, and obviously I wasn't going to be like that. But I think that the issue of between whether it's the 70s, the 80s, 90s, or 2000s, we just have been sold a bill of BS. We talked about that a little bit ago, right? And that what the proper human diet was. And
Mhm.
I sometimes really get conflicted with the idea of they made eating as if it was such an imperative thing that we do, right? Like, oh, the family time around the table and the family time in the kitchen, you know, either kneading the masa or making the noodles and boiling the tomatoes. And we get told this super, gosh darn, we have to be this wonderful kitchen person. And it turns out in the end, that's not so true, you know?
Oh, and you have to
A
eat all
lot of
these
it,
meals all day. It's not only breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have to have snacks too because you're supposed to eat all this stuff to keep your blood sugar at a steady level. When actually, if you do not eat very carby foods, your blood sugar is going to stay at a steady level anyway. And there's just no, and the whole thing about having the healthy breakfast and it's the cornflakes and it's the orange juice and it's the toast. Now, when I was a kid, they did sometimes put like eggs and bacon along, and they would say part of a nutritious breakfast. And then gradually they got away from that. And now it is a nutritious breakfast. You don't see the bacon and the eggs there. So it's,
Yeah, it makes you wonder what they spend if they spend millions and billions of dollars to tell you this is what is right, you know what I mean? Then
mhm.
you've got to maybe have the little spidey sense. I mean, we need to become now, that's another important part I really don't hear talk about a lot, and that is we have a responsibility incumbent upon ourselves to do the research we need to do and to find various sources.
Mhm.
Last night we had Lioness Hiker on, who is a nurse or an LPN, right? And she said we do have a duty to ourselves to learn about these things, to research, and not to accept blindly. And Dr. Barry and a lot of the doctors will tell us, go do your own research. I know that
Yes.
they were saying it earlier, right? Carrie was saying on Homestead How, do
Mhm.
your own research. Physician, heal thyself. And I think we've gotten into a point in our society when there's so much information that we defer to people all the time, right, for their expertise, and that doesn't serve us well because I don't mean to be a negative Nelly, but I don't think a lot of people, a lot of institutions are out there anymore for the benefit of the individual.
No, I don't believe they are either. And you look at the information, for example, that's on like the ADA website in terms of what diet you should eat, and then look at the recipes that they have that diabetics should eat. And I'm actually working on a video, but my mother was diabetic, type 2, and she basically just ate what she wanted and she took insulin to make up for it, but that's what they're told to do. They're
Right.
told that they can do that and that
if
that's
they
fine.
cure us, then the medical community loses out, including Big Pharma. They want
Right.
to keep us all sick and all having to take more and more pills, and the pills just make us sicker.
But you look at the AHA, I'm sorry, the ADA, American Diabetes Association website, and the recipes that they have, and they are just carby as all get out. Even desserts that have like apples. Like one is an apple crisp recipe, and Dr. Barry actually did a video on that one. But my mother would eat just anything, and it makes me angry because my grandfather also had type 2 diabetes, and you know how they handled it with diet. My grandmother knew what to cook for him. And so his was controlled by diet. And then you fast forward to my mother, and she just kept getting larger and larger. She would eat just what she wanted, take more insulin, and then gradually, I mean, she died of complications of diabetes ultimately.
The now, please, no one be offended by me about what I'm about to say, but when it becomes socially acceptable to lift up the bottom of your shirt or your blouse, grab your fat pad and jab yourself and give yourself 8, 10, 12 units of insulin because you've just finished a high carb meal.
Right.
We have gotten the horse and the cart so out of whack, right? And I literally pray at times that it will become malpractice to serve people up with exogenous insulin before putting them through a glycemic challenge and giving them all the stuff. Say, stop the carbs.
Exactly.
And then we won't have to do the insulin. But I think we've said it before. We know big pharma. We know a lot of big industries are okay with this. And we are not going to beat them. I was in politics.
Right. We're not going to beat them. You're right.
Big pharma makes too much money off insulin.
Right. The only way we're going to beat them is by that old starfish story. Do you know the starfish story?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah. Do you know it, Karen?
No.
Well, you probably do, but you haven't heard like this. So guys walk along the beach, you can pick up starfish and throw them back in the ocean because the tide had gone out. Starfish, I can't make it. I'm going to die. So he's throwing starfish back out in the surf. And somebody comes up and says, what are you doing? I'm saving starfish. He said, you're never going to be able to save them all. He goes, but it doesn't matter. And the other guy said, well, I did to that one. Right? My push is if I can take care of my family and I can affect people around me, I've done my mission set, right? And now with YouTube and technology, I've done my mission set to say, if we impact or affect one person to question the legitimacy of what they're seeing on the TV. If the TV tells you a lie about how great a toy is for Christmas, and you buy it, you can't put it together, it doesn't work, it falls apart, we know it's a lie, then they're probably lying about you about a sugar-coated cereal. If we can get one at a time, eventually, we're done.
Mm-hmm. It's word of mouth, just like a business. If you take your car into the shop, and this actually happened to me. I thought my transmission was shot, and I took it into the shop, and the guy calls me, later on that afternoon, and he says, well, I've got some good news for you. And I was expecting to have to replace the transmission. I was expecting at least at minimum a couple of grand. And he said, your bill is $50. And he said, it was just the hose. He said, I replaced it and you're good to go. Now I've recommended, I don't know how many people to this shop, because he could have said, oh yeah, I need to replace your transmission. But there's no telling how many people I've referred over there to him. And the thing is, it's like this with the carnivore diet. You tell one person, they tell somebody, or just people see you. There again, you're living the example. You're happy, your life. And even though life isn't perfect, because believe me, in the last couple of weeks, I've had some really big challenges that would have sent me into an anxiety tailspin, back even before carnivore, even when I was low carb, it would have just driven me to distraction. So the whole thing is just living by example and treating people with love and grace, and just answering questions when people ask. goes a long way. And I'm seeing that in my life. And we can change things. I know we can. We're not ever going to win. We're not ever going to beat them, but we can rise up from beneath.
Yeah,
And
a,
we
a
can.
grassroots, a
Mhm.
grassroots, grass-fed movement, right? And,
Yes.
and why? And the question becomes, well, why would we pick up the responsibility of everything? That's a good question to ask. So why do we feel an onus? Because when I first got into politics, I learned very quickly. Just because you see a flaming sword on the floor, doesn't mean you should pick it up. You might cut off your own legs. I mean,
Hmm.
it's really important to find those battles that you can fight and be effective in. And and I'm sorry, and you're right, Londwar, leading by example. But here's a big deal for me: is it's this whole idea about it's the people closest to you you want to help the most, who you will push away the farthest. I don't know about why it is like that, but friends and family will fight this carnivore thing as much as anybody else, but a complete stranger, like Carrie was saying, the bus driver on their way to the airport to go to see Bill Knott in Alaska. Why, that's very interesting. My father died. The people is like they're open to it, but when we're close to them, it's just like two North Poles on a magnet. And if we know that, then why do we do it? Well, hey, look, this is what I'm doing. You can see the yes or the no in all of it, and then here's some other resources. But we just aren't going to evangelize the people closest to us. So what that means is the world is our oyster, not our family.
Hmm. I've been lucky though about my family. My children are grown and gone, but I see them all the time
Amen.
because we live close by. Right? They nobody lives with me except for my cat. But they both are very supportive. My daughter is actually low carb. She has not been able to quite make it, to keto or carnivore, but she's getting there. And my son, he has no issues with eating meat at all. It's just that he also eats other things too, that other carby things. However, like for example, I went to a concert with my son and his wife, and he asked me what I wanted to eat, and I just said, well, just meat. I just want meat. Now, I had done a pregame, okay, because I didn't know what the dinner situation would be. So I just went ahead and made sure I ate. But he came back, and now it came on a tortilla, but it had a lot of meat on it. And, no, Mama, you shouldn't be eating that. Nothing like that at all. I mean, and both of my kids have been very supportive, and my friends too. I've actually had the worst time, and I shouldn't really say it's that bad. I think they speak out of ignorance. It's in situations that are, shall we say, obligatory, um, that are not family related. So you guys could probably fill in the blanks as to what kind of situation that might be. And so I actually had someone tell me that it was harmful to give up vegetables. And when I went to actually explain why it wasn't, the situation was not conducive for me to uh, respond, because there were other people around, and the discussion could have, it wasn't an appropriate time for the discussion, I guess. And so I just decided, okay, I'm not going to, stress over it. If I get an opportunity, I'll, refer this person to maybe Dr. Chafee and everything. But I just reacted with grace, and I just was like, well, thank you. I do appreciate your concern, because I think this person was speaking out of concern. They weren't, and especially since I've lost so much weight, and I can understand it's kind of like, when people are vegan and they don't look healthy. Now, I don't know. I can't be objective about myself. I don't know if I look healthy or not. I know one thing though, I feel better than I ever have. Ever. I mean, I feel fantastic. So
Well, I
it's
think
just,
I think what you're saying there is the important part is how you feel and how you're performing. I mean, I heard you say earlier on, you're saying that uh, you can lift heavier things, you can do more things, and maybe people won't see that, right? Maybe they won't see it, but what they do see, I think, is they're going to see that after some heavy lifting was done, and heavy lifting doesn't always mean like a heavy actual item, but let's say you have a deadline. So you said you're in the IT world, right?
Oh yeah.
And I don't know if you're a coder or if you're a network person, a design
It's
engineer.
business intelligence actually now. I actually have done network and I actually have done coding, but I'm doing business intelligence.
Okay, so I understand BI. Okay, I was a data analyst, knowledge engineer for the federal government, so I have a little understanding. But we all know that you end up with these big projects where you have to, whether you're working a proposal or you're working a change request, and you're long on requirements and short on resources. So they're trying to put 10 pounds of sausage in a 5-pound sausage bag,
yeah.
right? So when you can get through that and you keep your sanity, you keep your sharpness, you keep your wit and your humility, people notice that change in you and they go, I don't know what it is you're doing, but you're coming out the backside of this tumultuous process that is like a ringer, and you're not bent out of shape. That's the witness that says, hey, you are stronger in what you're doing. And people do that all across every aspect of life. No matter if you're a grandparent who has inherited your grandchildren, and now all of a sudden you feel as strong after a day with them as you did when your children were 3 and 5 and 7, then you have hit the mother lode of sanity, right, and health. Because whether you're watching after children or you're taking care of adults, that demand on your body and the demand on the stress, what was that, cortisol and all those things, is so high, and you respond to it. What do they call it? Resilience. When your resilience is high, people are like, that right there, pardon my terminology, that's shit hot. I'm sorry.
Oh, good. Yes, baby steps. That's right.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Are we there yet?
Yeah, we got all sorts of people who are commenting in here, and I don't want our friends in the comment section to think we're not following the Texas Tech stories and scoring. RV there, thank you, and Christopher and Allison, thank you for keeping that chat alive. And I don't want you to think that we are not keeping up with that, but it is just so cool to be able to interact and interface with so many people.
Yes. And I was saying on Carrie's stream earlier that I just feel like I found my tribe. I don't know, everybody's so nice and I know there's probably some food police out there. I know there are, but the vast majority of people in this community are loving, they're supportive. They are willing to help. And if they can't help, they will direct you to somebody who can. And even just having somebody just to say, I'm here. And that's all they have to say, just the love and support. And it just means the world to me. And so I'm just so thrilled that I get to interact with everybody like this. It just, I don't know, it's a wonderful thing. And it just makes me feel even better. Even better than Carnivore. I mean, all of it together. Just, it's wonderful. It's the way life should be. We should have community and we should be able to share things with others. And so often now we don't.
Well, what do you think that, there are many organized thoughts and religions and people that would say a cord made of many strands is so much stronger, right? When we sit here and say, I found my tribe, it's saying I'm finding people who have been through the struggle I've been through that I can relate to, who who even if it's different, it's the same. Does that make any sense? I mean, the yo-yo dieting, the uh, the public and social ridicule, the
Yeah.
self-loathing, right? All these things we've
Mhm.
been through. So we aren't speaking to people who are ignorant of our deeper feelings, and and we champion the people who are triumphing over it, and we can see ourselves in their footsteps. We're lifted up. It
Mhm.
enhances us, and the sense of community and belonging drives us to the same place. And yeah, maybe there's a bonehead here or there, or hey, I'll be one. I'll say something, or well, but the whole idea is we are all trying to do probably one of the hardest things we'll ever do, and that is to remodel our bodies against all the dollars that are spent against us, whether it's medical, pharmaceutical, big food. I mean, we are not engaged with minor foes, and that biggest
No,
foe
it's
is
a
right
big
here.
so it's David and Goliath.
But that big one is right here when
Oh
you look
yes.
in the mirror. So I think that's why it feels so good to come together like this, and the chat fills up and people start. And I love the fact that people are just they're on fire for the community. It's not a selfish thing.
No, it's not. And we can all just grow together. And it's just, I know it might sound sappy to some people, but I really don't care. I just want the whole world to feel this good. And I think there would be a lot less for the news to report about if people ate this way. At the very least, low carb or keto. But definitely, if they were carnivore, I mean, we'd just all be chill. Everybody'd be think we were smoking weed or something. We'd be that chill.
Hey, I'm glad to hear that it's Father's Day in Australia. Happy Father's Day to everybody down there, down under.
Ooh, seafood.
Ground beef palooza. We've got some comments about grilled shrimp. Yep. Yeah, I think you're right there, RB. The bottom
Yes.
line is we've got to be the captains of our own ships. And our flotilla can achieve great things, but it all starts with us going, hey, I made the mistake of putting all those donuts in my face. I made the mistake of deciding I didn't have to go outside and move more. You know, when we take, how did I do that with Alcoholic Anonymous and for uh, uh, um, any other type of addicts, right? First thing but
Mhm.
an addict has to do is they have to realize the problem and what they own. I am a sweet addict. If something is sweet and I get into it, all bets are off. And if I know that, then I can do things to mitigate that whole thing. And being here in the community, this is my accountability tool.
That's true, Scott, but here's what makes us different. If you look at all of those other addictions, alcohol, drugs, gambling, everything that's addictive, people can remove that from their lives. They don't ever have to drink alcohol. They don't ever have to use cocaine. People have to eat. We must
That's
have
a good
food to
point.
survive. And so that's not taken into consideration by society. Society has a big bleeding heart now for people that are drug addicts. So it's an illness, and no, alcoholism, it's an illness. And I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that everybody's very sympathetic to those situations, but we're just a bunch of lazy fat slobs because we're fat or
Oh,
overweight or whatever, unhealthy, whatever your case is. I'm fat. So that's my problem. But and I can't not go without food.
And they
So
oh,
tell you to eat the wrong things.
and yes, and then they tell you to eat the wrong thing. So it's coming at you. And another thing that I thought of when you were talking earlier, Scott, I grew up in the 60s in my formative childhood. And in 1966, I was 9 years old. And that was coming off of a time in the 50s. And if you look at the female movie stars and things of the 50s, you had Marilyn Monroe and some others of that same figure. And women
Voluptuous.
were curvy, women were
Mhm.
voluptuous, and men loved them. And then all of a sudden, the
Twiggy.
bikini came. The bikini came to the United States, and the beach music, and then Twiggy. And then after 1966 and Twiggy was popular, everybody, well, the men expected you to look like Twiggy after that. And
And
I
I was
thought,
born in the wrong time frame.
and I
See?
fought my whole bigger childhood and my teenage years trying to look like her because that was acceptable and what I looked like was not acceptable. And I already told you, I was only a size 14 in high school. So that's not huge. But compared to what society was seeing out of Twiggy and people like her, that was what was the acceptable thing at the time. That's what people expected you to look like. If you didn't look like her, you were outcast.
Well,
And
then
you
in
know
the
what?
80s, when I was in high school, you had to be a video vamp. And so that left me out.
Well, I have to be honest. If you're a student of history, right, and Mike put it in there about
Mhm.
being Rubenesque. If you're a student of history, societies follow a pattern, and when a society is growing and thriving, that Rubenesque, thick, curvy person is extraordinarily important because that's surviving starvation, right? You could go into
True.
ketosis and live, right? You take a Twiggy and say,
Mhm.
Twiggy, you're not getting any food for the next
She ain't
40 days
lasting
and
very
40
long.
nights. You're done, right?
Right.
So,
Exactly.
but that's an indice, and I would say that it was a leading indicator, if I could use that type of verbiage, like you might do with political stuff. It's a leading indicator of a societal shift away from what was healthy, or
Mhm.
as one guy wrote a book, I can never remember his name when I want it, but it said, "What got you here won't get you there." All right, it's
Exactly.
a leading management book, and what it says is Dr. Goldsmith, and what he said is all your behaviors that got you to be into management won't help you once you're in management to become a better manager,
Yep.
right? All the things that got our society successful to be in homes that have air conditioning, refrigeration, food on demand, freezers, right? I've been to Haiti on mission trips. They don't have that. What you don't get today, you don't eat today. And so
Mhm.
they eat
Yeah.
clay, right? They eat dirt to fill their stomachs. So the thing is what got us to this point is not going to evolve us to anything better because we fall into that trap of starting to be inbred, really thin, skinny, and not healthy, and doing weird things because we have too much free time on our hands. So then society falls apart, and then what do you end up with? An agrarian society that champions a Rubenesque figure because there's going to be famine. But we don't have famine now. We have 7-Eleven or Bucky's or Chuck E. Cheese or Domino's. And
Mhm.
so we have forgotten the value of strength. We have forgotten the value of restraint. You know, we have forgotten the value of community and courtesy. And now here we are, suffering the vagaries of affluence.
That's right. And I wish I could remember because I don't know. I know what you're talking about. I saw a graph or something that talked about the evolution and then fall of a society and how there are, like, they compared like Rome and different various ones and found these same trends throughout the whole evolution of the society. And so basically, like, we're on the back end of the peak. So if we don't do something, we're getting ready to collapse.
It happened for the Egyptians. It happened for the Phoenicians. It happened for the Greek. It happened for the Romans. I mean, this whole thing. If you don't know your past, you're doomed to repeat it in your future. And I mean, and again, what are we going to do? I don't know. I'm just going to fix me, fix those around me, and hopefully in this environment, we will. If you read the little, when you go into this StreamYard, they say give a title and what's it about. And I said we're in here talking like-minded people talking about things that are important to us today. And it may not be always about food. It may be, and sometimes we'll celebrate your victories, and we'll support you in the valleys.
Exactly.
And that's why we're here.
And you're right. The reason we are eating wrong isn't just about the food.
Right. So, we do what we can, and we cheer each other up through whatever our something like Mike is talking about football now, and that's valuable. And Carrie, you may talk about a kiss and whatever else, and Karen, you'll talk about your things, and I'll talk about mine. But all together, we have this common understanding that we need people to hear us. We need people to see us and value us as we are today. Because if you're not happy today, if you're not valuing today, then why would you value me tomorrow?
And that goes back to what Carrie was saying before. We know we can come in here and talk to other like-minded carnivore or keto people that understand, and we're not going to be shamed, and we're not going to be bullied, and we're not going to be laughed at. We'll be listened to. And then as a collective whole, then the whole community can rise up from there.
That's right. That's right. And I think Woodster said he's going to try to join us here.
All right, Woodster, come on in.
Let me do this. He's so close. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Woodster.
Oh, he's a ginger. My son, both of my kids are gingers.
A ginger, yep. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Lima Charlie, loud and clear.
Okay, good. Looked like my audio levels were a little low, but looks like everything's working.
Well, then talk. Take it away.
I don't have much to say.
You just wanted to dazzle us with your presence.
Yeah. I'm trying to use, I actually don't have a webcam. I'm using my DSLR as a webcam, so I didn't know if it was going to work or not.
Well, that's innovative.
Seems a lot of people do that.
All right, though.
No, it's working really good. So what's with all the football going on today, did you watch any football today?
Not a single game. I did see someone said something about Wyoming with a score earlier. Was that Mike Shaw?
Yeah.
He said Wyoming because that's where I'm from, so I wasn't sure if it was
football. They just
football.
kicked a field goal. It's 20-17 Wyoming. I asked about it because I turned it on earlier and they were in a lightning delay. Because I wanted to see if Texas could even breathe up there. But apparently they can.
So one time I went to Wyoming. I've driven through Wyoming, but I've never had a reason to stop in Wyoming. And I did get a chance. I'm looking busily on my map here. I want to make sure I get to the right place. I was in Wyoming in a little town. Well, I drove through Cheyenne and I've been through Casper, but I think I want to say it's outside of was it around LaGrange? What part of Wyoming are you pretty much from?
We're in the central northern part, about an hour from Cody, Wyoming.
Okay, I was in Huntley. I want to say in between, right on the Nebraska border.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful place. I love driving through Wyoming. It's beautiful areas of Wyoming.
Yeah, certain parts of it can be a little boring at times, though. Just pure desert. But if you're in the
Hey,
mountains, it's good.
I was born at White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico and raised in El Paso. I got boring down.
And that's not like Nebraska.
Nebraska's just flat.
Nebraska's awful.
That's where
Well, not all of it. I lived in Nebraska for
family is
15
from.
years. If you
It's
go up to
awful.
Niobrara in the north central, but up in Sherry County, if you go down south near Falls City, it's beautiful. Even up towards a Rapid City, Sioux City. I mean, there's some beautiful areas, and then of course the sand hills are beautiful. Out toward north, not now. And once you get out at Ogallala, you've got the great big park, McConaughey State Park. They've got some beautiful areas, but I'll grant you, there are places there that are pretty repetitive.
They got lucky and got spillage from South Dakota.
Well, you can look at it like that. I mean, I've been around about a third of the world, and what I notice about everything in the world is it's the people that make the place either beautiful or ugly. And even when I was there in the military doing the things the military does, it wasn't always horrible. And people are pretty cool all around the world if you'll just learn a few pleasantries and treat them with dignity and respect. I mean, it isn't going to always be like good old hometown USA, but it wasn't bad. Feel free to talk.
Good night, low carb carnivore. I was yes, just making sure I say good night.
Hey, it is. The weather has gotten pretty nice here lately, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's got, although it was about 92 here today, so it's still pretty warm. But we were pushing 100 earlier this week.
Right. So now, we're going to go into the new week. Does anybody have any goals for this week?
Any specific goals?
Or maybe something they're doing. Like I just had my friend come in and he's going to buy a house in my neighborhood. So I'm pretty stoked. And this week is going to be just your typical week for a retiree. But I mean, maybe somebody, see, we're just coming off the long weekend. Tomorrow, Mondays. How many of y'all have Monday off because of the holiday?
I'm retired. I have every day off.
I'll have to go
there
Me
you
too.
go. There you go. I don't have any specific plans for Monday. I mean, I'm going to go hang out with my daughter and son for a while, but I mean, it's just a very casual thing. I think my daughter is cooking steaks though, so that's nice because I'm just going to admit I cannot. Okay, I'm not going to say I cannot. I'm going to say that I do not know how to cook a steak. And I never really had a reason to know how to cook a steak, I guess, because when I was married, the person who cooked the steaks did a very fine job. So there was no need for me to do it. And he also used to make barbecue and all that stuff. And so I don't know. I can't do a steak. As for goals,
sure you can.
Well, I'm going to. I'm not going to
Easy.
say I can't anymore.
You can still learn.
Yes.
The thing is, make sure your pan's good and hot when you throw it in there so it sears it and seals in the juices.
And then I've got a cast iron skillet, so I mean,
that's the best.
Yeah, so I've got a good skillet. I just have never done it.
Scott,
maybe that can be my goal this week is to make a steak.
And then you'll just have to decide how long according to how you want it done.
Medium rare. I love my steaks medium rare.
Well, it won't take very long, depending on the steak. If you got a 3/4 inch steak, it's going to take you just a minute or two on each side, maybe about 3 minutes. And make sure you let it rest. Pour some butter on it. You're good to go. And the nice thing about steak, How can you really go wrong as long as you don't make steak tartare, right?
Right.
Well, this is true. This is true.
That's how I
Scott, how
like
do you like to
mine. I
cook
want it
yours?
just barely not mooing anymore. I like
Yeah.
mine almost blue, but it's hard to get a restaurant to cook them like that.
Oh, yeah, I can understand why. How about you? How about you, Woodster? What you got on the plan this week? Anything in
I
particular?
think I froze up.
You froze up. Well, it's going to be a 4-day work week for a lot of people, right? Those who are working, I mean.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear
We
you.
can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. My stream here looks like it's all
It
the
does.
pictures
It's
are all
frozen.
spinning. Oh, there it goes.
Hey,
My camera's
no
still
worries, friend.
froze.
Maybe it'll catch up.
Hey, I like what Bubba's saying. My goal is to get up each day, enjoy my journey. That's
There
right.
you go.
Exactly.
Now, do you have a couple of trips planned to the gym this week, there, Bubba? Because I don't know if y'all been following Bubba, but he's been going to the gym now, and he started off nice and slow, making sure the tendons and ligaments were in good working order. But now he's actually started to actually exercise.
Oh, he hit the goalpost. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
Oh
That
no,
misses
that's a
field goal.
nightmare
tried-
for a kicker. Oh,
Texas
geez.
tried to tie it up with a field goal, and he hit the goalpost, and it bounced off.
That'd happen. That'd happen. All right. That's a good idea, Christopher.
Okay, season wrap in parchment paper and into a Ziploc before freezing for cooking and instant read digital thermometer. I do have one of those. It might be rusted. No, I'm kidding. I don't use one very much. It's terrible. Look, I live off of mostly ground beef, either just like mixed with eggs, or I'll make hamburger patties. I eat bacon. I eat more eggs. I do eat bologna and hot dogs, and I eat cod liver and once a week. I mean, cod liver's okay. And then I eat sardines every day. So far, I've craved them, so I've been eating them every day. Yes, Woodster, your camera is frozen.
I have not found cod livers. Where are we getting cod livers?
I order them from Amazon
Oh,
because I can't find them in the
That
grocery
sounds
store.
scary.
Either. Yeah, I can't find them in the grocery store, so I just order them.
okay, all right.
I'm not
Well-
that brave.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as all I can sit there and say is this week, I think I ordered a fireplace. So I'm in this great big project, and I have been for 3 years, to build a pavilion in my backyard. And
Oh.
the pavilion, and since I'm retired, the money tree doesn't fruit like it used to. It's a once a month fruit. And so we've been very dedicated and very, how do you call it, methodical. And so concrete pad, then the roof. Early this summer, I closed in the gables. I ordered the fireplace. And since we're down here in Alabama, there's a lot of moisture. And so I've got a stainless steel fireplace I'm going to put on there. And that should be in this week. And then my neighbor, the framer, is going to come back from his vacation, and I'm hopefully going to pick up this behemoth fireplace and start, because my goal is by late fall, maybe to be able to do this out at my pavilion in front of the fireplace.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Well, I hope it's pretty warm, that's the whole idea of it. But yeah, I get you. But everybody has to have a dream, and I think that's the point I was getting to. Is, I mean, if our weeks get to be where they're rolling by and we don't really have a goal for that week, I think we could fall into a mundane trap, or a trap of mediocrity. So, like, I could see Woodster saying, "Hey, I'm going to go try to run sprints once this week," right? Or Carrie, you might sit there and say, "You know what? I'm going to intentionally go pick something up to strengthen. I did have that question for you too, Carrie, particularly for you. And I don't know if you've chronicled this or not, but have you had a bone density scan done?
I have, and my bones are fine. I mean, they're I don't remember like what kind of a scale they used or whatever, but I mean, they said that they were fine. I don't, I could actually look it up, but I just, but yeah, my bone density is great.
Well, the reason
I've been eating low carb though, and mostly keto for about the last, let's see, since 2015.
Well, I asked that because, you know, it might go along.
Habitat for
A long
Humanity.
way. Yeah, it might go a long way for you to do that if you get your doctor, if it was in your plan to get another scan. So you can just say, hey, I started at this level. I've been doing it for this long, and my bone density scan came in good. So people who are doing the underweight or people who you say, look, my bone density and my lean tissue mass are better now than they were before. What we have to do, correct me if I'm wrong, so as a society, we have to refocus on what is actually a healthy parameter, not what our eyes tell us, because our eyes lie to us. My eyes had lied to me for years that I was holding my weight well. It was my belt buckle hurting my belly that told me that was a lie. You know? So for you, if you sort of say, hey, look, I've had a coronary artery calcium scan, a CAC scan, I've had a bone density scan as a lady over the age of 30, you know, you know this osteoporosis is a real thing. So these are metrics that you can keep and that you can champion. You can sit there and say, look, I did it. I've been carnivore. How long have you been doing the carnivore again, Carrie?
Since December of last year.
And how long have you been
toward the end of December.
And how long have you been in carnivore / keto?
I was I guess like ketovore. I don't know. I kind of evolved into that, but maybe a year before that. And
so for 18 months.
Roughly 18 months, I guess, since I started carnivore, I know, in December of 2022. So I guess, yeah, a year before that, I was very meat heavy.
So these are the type of things. Like if someone comes to me and says, hey, Scotty, you've been doing this thing. What did it do for you? Well, I've got, because of the military and the VA, got lots of blood tests. I can sit there and say, my triglycerides went from 400 to 72. And you see, I eat butter off the stick. I do, and all my lipids. So I have that point of reference. You know, and I think Dr. Barry says that a lot too, right?
Oh yeah, he does. And right. I've got labs. I've been seeing the same primary care physician, for like 20 plus years. And so all of our labs are like online now. So I've got labs going back. And so you can see, I've looked at them and from 2015 on, I mean, they've been low triglycerides, high HDL. I think the last time I had HDL, had a measurement, which has been almost a year ago. My HDL was 77 and my triglycerides, no, I take that back. My triglycerides were 77. My HDL was 76. So
I think you could do like Carrie was talking. Did anybody see Carrie's show, his broadcast tonight?
I did.
A little bit of it.
Carrie whipped out a business card that has some of this carnivore way of life benefits and information. I think we should all have that in a card available to say, look, you're hearing words and associate them to ideas that you've gotten, and I'm not going to poo-poo your ideas, but let me tell you what it's done to me. This is my year-over-year blood test, right? And just say, here it is. Now, I'm here to tell you that I'm resilient, I'm happier, all the good things we talk about. But here it is. And to have that so we don't sit there, well, I can get it to you. You know, Carrie, when you do anything, when you're sitting in a room and they're talking about that IT upgrade, right? And somebody who counts beans is going to sit there and say, oh, because you do the business intelligence, show me my ROI.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, right? Well, that's your ROI card right there, right? My return on investment is drop my triglycerides, my HDL is up, my bone density is fine, and et cetera, ad nauseum. And everybody,
A1C is always less than, it alternates between 4.8 and 4.9, or it has the last few years. I go for more labs in about 10 days.
what about your TH3 and stuff like that? The hormone thyroid things.
I have not had like a detailed thyroid panel, but as far as we can tell, I mean, my thyroid, I mean, that's good. It's all good.
Well, then you could couch that as saying, my general practitioner says my thyroid doesn't have any issues because of all the other,
Mm-hmm.
interdependent type of things, because it's a cascade effect, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is.
So I think
And
if
I am going to ask for, I've never had a fasting insulin
good
done.
on you.
So I'm going to ask for that. And I'm also going to ask for a D25. I've never had my vitamin D measured ever. I looked through all my labs and didn't see it. So I have no idea what it is, but I take 10,000 international units a day.
So for Woodster and for Karen, let me ask you: have you all got baseline blood work done at all?
I have.
Not
I
this
did.
year. I did last year.
Okay.
I did some. So I started on Carnivore in October of last year. And then I think in February of this year I did some. And then I did them again. Let's see, I think it was in June. So I do have numbers. I guess which ones do you want to know?
Well,
If I can remember them off the top of my head.
Well, see, it's not so much for me to know, but I think that is our calling card, right? In business development, I don't know how many of you have done business development or sales, but you have your elevator pitch, right? And your elevator pitch is something you can tell someone in an elevator in 2 to 3 floors that gives them the impact statements, what we like to call bottom line up front in the military, right? And as I said, took my triglycerides from 400 pre-statin prescription to 72 in 60 days, right? You've got their attention. Anybody who sat in a doctor's office and had the statin talk, anybody of us who've been out there and seen how statins can be detrimental to your health, if I tell you I don't have to do the statins, or I don't have to take the insulin, or I'm off of my high blood pressure medicine, which drives up your insurance costs, it doesn't take an hour and a half of oratory skills to say that. And someone will go, okay, time out. What are you doing? Right? I think if we become more conversant in the language that is effective, then we do a lot of help. Because Carrie, someone's going to come up to your work and go, hey, and by the way, there you go, you're back. By the way, what's going on? You say, well, all I know is my triglycerides are here, my HDL is here, my bone density is good, and I'm off a certain medication, whatever, right? They're gonna ask you after that. You just give them the accomplishments, right? And they're going to come to you after that. Well, tell me how you did it. Instead of leading with, I'm doing this new thing where all I eat is meat. Okay, I'm done. I'm tapping out.
Mm-hmm.
My cholesterol last time was 98, and my doctor told me that was high, and he upped my Lipitor.
Wait a minute, your what cholesterol? Which was
that? My cholesterol was 98, and as long as it's below 100, you're all right.
Yeah. Is that your LDL or is that your total?
Total, I think.
That's awesome.
I stopped taking it after I watched Dr. Barry's video about how bad
low.
it is. And
that's like really low. If that's your total cholesterol, that's...
I don't know. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't know that much about the test, but I just know that was the one that they said should be 100 or less. And I looked at my test and it said 98. And he still upped my Lipitor.
Yeah.
I stopped taking it. I don't need that crap.
No, that stuff is terrible.
And I'm getting ready to cut out my Januvia. I don't have very many left, but I've struggled with blood sugar. I've got all my numbers. I just went through them. And I worked real hard to get them down into the low to mid 100s. Low after fasting and mid after I ate. And I thought that was good, but that was still too high. Since I've been on carnivore, after my normal fasting, and I'm not fasting anymore, I'm trying to do a 24. Sometimes I can't. Sometimes I can only get to 18, and I'm so hungry I got to eat something. So then I do a 18.6, but that should be good enough.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And my problem is I can't eat enough at one time because I've been dieting for so long and starving, because that was the only way I could lose weight, that my stomach is probably shrunk up to the size of a walnut. And I just can't fit much in there yet.
How long have you been on this carnivore way, Karen?
I'm on day 70 right now.
All right. All right. Well, you know, I am learning that the recovery period for people is very individualistic, you know, but that for the longer you've been unhealthy, the longer a person has been unhealthy, the longer time it is before the body gets healthy through this way of eating. So you take Woodster, 29, 30 years old there, buddy?
29. Yep.
29. He's going to respond a lot quicker than me at 61.
And me at 66.
I've been overweight and carrying medical problems since I was 40 years old. So for 21 years, right? My recovery, my time to get back to health through a proper human diet, it's going to be much different than his. And yours will be too, based on the other impacts. So I have asthma, and I have sleep apnea, and a lot of cervical spine issues, and you know, things of that nature. So my path is going to be a lot longer and more arduous, doing the same things. And I'm sure for Carrie, coming from where she's at now, that path to healing is so much different. But they don't teach our doctors anything about that, because they work so hard to get through medical school. They work so hard to stay out of a malpractice lawsuit through the standard of care. And they're seeing so many people to pay off the malpractice insurance, for practice, pay for their facility, for all their people that work for them, right? They're trying to run 60 people, 45 people a day. That's the nature of their business. God bless them for what they do, right? And that's why I think it's incumbent upon us to do everything we can. And that's why I think we should know, my opinion, we should know at the drop of a hat our triglyceride, HDL, LDL, A1C. If we can say those four numbers, and maybe even be able to say year over year, last year, this is what my four were. This year, this is what my four are. That will probably do more to reinforce what people are seeing in front of their eyes, because they see you. What's this? People you work with have got to be seeing a physiological change in your body shape.
I haven't had anyone mention it, but there's people that I do work with that I've told about it.
Right.
There's a couple of them that watch the channel, but.
Right. So the thing is, if we can sit and say, what you see is this, these are the numbers I have, it deflates all the imagery big pharma and big food has been pumping into their heads. Eat these 6 times a day. Eat these carbohydrate seed oil foods, right? And that's going to be that's going to be the currency. That's the word I was looking for. That's the currency we will trade in, is the medical information. Because everybody said, well, what are your labs like? What does your doctor say? I don't know what my doctor says. I don't care what my doctor says. I care what my labs say.
But my LDL is like almost 200. I'm a lean mass hyper responder. So
But-
I can't use my cholesterol numbers. I mean, the triglycerides and the HDL, I can use that, and my A1C and my fasting glucose. But yeah, LDL, yeah, I can point them to Dr. David Diamond's work, or not Dr. I think he's just David Diamond. I forget if he's a doctor, but anyway, I'll point them to his work. And
But you can learn very quickly through listening to Dr. Benjamin Bickman, right? And he's a lipidologist. He's like the fat doctor of in the world, right? And here's what we need to know: an LDL is simply a canoe. It's an enclosed containment. You might call it a sidey wrapper, a sidey wrapper in coding, right? When you put things to work with other things. It's just a canoe that carries energy in it. So your LDL, whether it's HDL, LDL, small particle, it's either full or it's empty. It's going out with a bunch of energy or coming back empty. And you tell people LDL isn't the sine qua non of health.
Oh,
It's
I know it
indicator.
isn't, but there are people who think it is. So, but yeah, like all my other labs, I could definitely use as examples, but I would have to refer them to, like you said, Dr. Bickman or someone else to clarify, because they're going, if they see an LDL of like, I'm serious, mine was like 199 or something. It was ridiculous. My doctor about had a cow initially. Now I will say that he does not nag me about, he will remind me every year that I need to be on a statin. And then I gently remind him back that I'm more concerned about my metabolic health. And then he drops it. So I think he tells me more just so he can check a box.
Good. Well,
I think that's, I mean, he's never nagged me. Now, if he starts nagging me, I'm going to go to my brother's doctor, because my brother had told his doctor that he was doing low carb and was thinking about doing carnivore. And his doctor said, oh, did you know there's a diet that's even stricter than carnivore that's called Lion? And I was like, my brother told me about it, and I was like, well, wow. I said, so what did he say about the fact that you're low carb? I said, did he freak out or anything? He said, no. He said he's heard good things about carnivore and Lion. And I was just like, so if my doctor nags me, I'm going to my brother's doctor.
sometimes
I was going to say, I got my numbers here if you guys want to see them.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I haven't shared them at all. So just tell me what you think of them. So this was in February of this year. HDL was 75.
Woo!
Triglycerides 122. LDL 186. And then it said non-HDL was 210.
So your total, I guess. Well,
Is that the total?
That all sounds good.
It's pretty good.
I think so.
Yeah, your numbers sound very much like mine. I mean, your cholesterol numbers, like your LDL and HDL. So did your doctor have a cow?
I don't even have a actual doctor right now. I just went in and did like a wellness thing. They let you do labs for free. Well, it's like $20 for the basic labs. But I've considered getting a doctor, but I don't see a reason yet.
No, I don't see a reason either.
I think that that obviously no one here is a doctor. No one here is giving medical advice. Please don't construe anything we say as medical advice. Please see your doctor beforehand. But all those caveats aside, I think as a young man who is strong and who is vibrant and who is resilient, those numbers are only something that matter to a beatnik who isn't living in your shoes. And I think you are just fine by that. And if you continue to do what you're doing, your triglycerides are an indication of the amount of energy that are currently available in your blood. So when your fat cells and those LDLs are full and they're nice and fluffy, and think sometimes when your fat cells are too full or those LDLs are too full, they'll leak out triglycerides, and triglycerides are what they're measuring as a cheap understanding of the energy level in your blood at the time. So when you start to put and have lower amounts of sugar in your diet, and your body is now able to not have to worry about processing sugars and alcohols and whatever else, your body is more efficient to say, hey, I have more hands to metabolize and deal with the things you are eating, right? And your triglycerides will tend to fall through the floor in a carnivore diet, right? Because your body knows what to do with fats, and your body knows what to do with the proteins. And if you have your proteins and your fats in a proper ratio, i.e., 70% of your calories coming from fats, right? Then your body knows what to do and how to package and where to send them, what to do. And it's not fighting the battle of, oh, now I have this very toxic sugar substance that I can use, and now I have to shuttle all this other stuff over. And the shuttles are like a bus in a third world country where things are people falling off. That's that triglyceride that's in your body, right? It's able to be self-contained and properly moved to where it needs to go. The logistics is much cleaner because you're not having to deal with the toxicity of sugar, because sugars are very toxic for your body. So they're necessary. It's like running on JP8 or on kerosene versus running on diesel, right? So it's a matter of making it simpler for your body to not have to juggle so many things at one time. And then it has a prioritizing schema, which says I have to get rid of poisons like ethanol first. I have to deal with sugar next. And then since I can make fat, I'll deal with fat as I get a chance. I'll throw it wherever I want to. And maybe now I'll do some with the protein, depending on what's going on in your metabolic condition. But just make your body juggle less stuff, eating fat and protein, right? And over time, your body says, hey, I got this. I can shuffle these two things. I know what to do with these. But when we add all these other chemicals into our body, all we're doing is creating subroutines, which would, if you have an IO port and you don't keep it clean and rebooted, right, you're going to find fragments of data sticking there. So it's all over again. It's a simplification for a process that your body is better off doing. Anyway, that's all. I read that somewhere. That's all I know.
All right, Woodster, what about the rest of your numbers? What you got?
Well, let's see. Let me pull it back up here. So one of the more concerning ones was the hemoglobin, A1C. That was at a 5.5, so just 0.1 away from being pre-diabetic. But it had gone down between February and June of this year. I think it was down to a 5.2. I don't have that. I don't have June's numbers with me right now. I just have the screenshots here from February. So
I think you're awesome, and you're in the right trajectory. You with sprinting and everything, you're gonna be jam up and jelly tight.
Right. Slowly but surely we'll get there.
Yeah, I think your numbers are really good. Now I'm not a doctor, so yada yada disclaimer, but I think that your numbers are great.
Yeah, from the videos I've watched, they're pretty standard for a carnivore, and they're in the range they should be, so it's good.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, when I was really unhealthy at the end of 2016 and first went to the doctor for the first time after a really long time, my A1C was 14, so there you go. It's not that now. It's about 4.7 now, but yeah, that's how bad it was.
Well, but we always need to make sure we understand one number is in a sea of numbers, and it's in a spectrum, you know? So when we like what you're saying there, Woodster, you're in a great trend, you're doing the right things, you're giving yourself a lot of exercise, you're putting the right fuel in your body. So we doctors tend to get really hung up on a number, and then they react to a number without looking at the spectrum of indices that are your life. And when you pull on one over here, man, it changes this other cascade event. And so we as patients can do just like Karen said, I'm not doing them statins. I'm not upping my statins. You know, doc, you never mentioned that I could avoid this by changing my dietary habits or my exercise habits, right? I'm taking those under control, and I'm going to see. We'll come back in 3 months and revisit this. But they are too happy to put us on statins, to put us on blood pressure medicines, to put us on metformin, which really isn't a horrible drug, but those pre-diabetes thing. When all you really need
That's
to do,
another one I have to get rid of.
yeah, some push-aways, right? Some push-aways from the table, and when you're at the table, bring the right food in.
The only thing
right,
I
what
have
will
right
you-
now is LDL, and my direct LDL is 100. That was from last year.
Oh, that's one that the doctors would be happy with.
Right, but
They
he
ain't
still
happy
had
with
me up.
mine.
They still upped my Lipitor for that.
That is awful. They must have reduced. Did they reduce the?
No, because
didn't
that right there says that if it's less than or equal to 129, you're okay. You're in the range.
Why
So
would
that's-
they increase your Lipitor then? That does not make any sense.
Because they don't know what they're doing. There you go, Scott. I
Yeah,
swear, these doctors have to be getting kickbacks from Big Pharma. Remember when you'd go to the doctor and you'd walk out with so many sample pills you couldn't carry them all? They can't do that anymore. They've made that illegal. So they have to get their kickback somehow. And it's got to be happening. I just don't know, and I don't care enough to figure it out. But the Big Pharma's got to be giving these doctors kickbacks for prescribing certain drugs.
Well, I know for a period of 4 years, I worked in an Army hospital. I was a data quality manager. And what that meant was I looked at all the things going on as a kind of like a knowledge engineer across all the business practices in a hospital. And what I know is when you go to the doctor, they have medical codes for everything that they do. So if a nurse weighs you, if they do, and they give a complexity to this code. So let's say a doctor comes and they see you, their staff measured you, and then the doctor asks you 4 or 5 different diagnostic questions over different areas, like if they address your diabetes, if they address your overweight status, they address your high blood pressure, right? They're getting the general what they call RVUs, and it's a measurement of value for what they did with the patient. So then they can code that to the International Code of Medical Codes, ICD, right?
ICD-10.
And what they can do then, predicated on what they did or what they say they did, what their staff did, and your medical history, then they bill insurance on that code, and that gets more. And then if they prescribe a medication, then they're going to get a more value for that code, and the insurance company and everything, the way they make their money increases. So it's a built-in bias to make you sicker, not healthier.
Exactly.
Right? And that's how the financial side of the hospital, I'm going to use the word corrupt, but I'm using it in a global high level way, poisons the well of what I believe doctors are near geniuses. I think that for the most part, they absolutely care, but they're driven like a rat in a cage running a hamster in that wheel. And they are driven down some very specific things to say, make sure you ask these questions about these things when we get more money off our RVU generation, right? And that's the unfortunate reality, I think, for probably 98% of our medical providers today. And it's revenue driven, not patient care driven.
Well, and there are also things that they can't. Part of the work that I do involves. I got to be kind of careful but anyway, it's medical related, and so I deal with a lot of ICD data, ICD-10 data, like billing type, like 837I, 837P, all of that. And there are things that you cannot bill on the same day. So if you've ever asked your doctor before, like, hey, by the way, I meant to ask you about blah. And if they've actually, that is not them being a jerk. That is because they cannot bill. And in some of the services, it's like ridiculous. And you're just like, why can't you ask them about your toe jam at the same time you're asking about the boogers in your nose? You know, it's just weird. But that's regulations for you. And that's not the doctor's fault.
That's right. So
Yeah.
I think that all of this leads us back to the same point.
They
Well, no, me.
part of it.
Me is something like I know my wife was a medical records release of information professional for the Army. She retired civil servant that did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she'd go to a specialist for rheumatoid arthritis.
Mm-hmm.
When we would get back the paperwork, it would tell that the doctor touched her, palpitated her, did this, did that. My wife said she looked at me once. She waved a stethoscope in my general direction. Yet she billed for the whole gamut, right? Now that's probably fraudulent, right? But that's the standard. That's the standard. When I went to go see a urologist once, 30 seconds talking to me, 5 minutes talking to his dictaphone about a whole bunch of other things, and off he was going, but he billed the whole thing, right? This is the business model, and I'd love to hear. Well, I probably never get the doctors in our circles to talk about it because that would be suicide. Because the AMA would come after them.
Yeah.
That's
It's
why
terrible.
you can't afford
Terrible.
insurance now.
You know what's weird is the doctors, I mean, a lot of them are pretty smart. If they're going to make it through all that schooling, and then they just get into this system where it just almost like some of them don't have a choice. It's almost like they just get used to, like they know they're doing the wrong thing, and they just keep on doing it, and then it just becomes normal for them over time.
But let's take a minute to look at that and say, don't restaurant workers do that? Don't we, when we're at work, we're supposed to have de minimis use of the internet and our phone? Are we always Johnny on the spot and always giving every minute of our day to our employer? Or is there like a scoshy, hey, I'm going to spend an extra 15 minutes on Monday talking about at the water cooler, talking about football? I want to be very careful that in our angst due to what has happened to us over years, we assign things correctly because someone said in there that so many doctors are corrupt. Well, I'm not going to argue that point other than to say, have we walked a mile or two in their shoes? The word compassion comes from two words, com, which means with, and patrie means suffering. So it is with suffering that we have compassion. I've walked a few miles in your shoes. Now, it's hard to walk in the shoes of a doctor, but when you think about all the costs, you think about all the things, and what about 15 years of diabetic patients saying, up yours, I'm going to eat every donut, and I'm going to put barbecue sauce on my Wheaties, and you're just going to give me more medication because my insurance covers it. What do you think that does to the soul of a doctor?
Yeah, that's true. And Dr. Berry says that they're all dudes and chicks. Like if you read his book, Lies My Doctor Told Me, I mean, he actually presents a case that, and there again, I actually did at one time have a doctor who was very snooty, used the whole appeal to authority thing on me once. This was not my primary care doctor. This was a specialist. And needless to say, I never saw that doctor again. But Dr. Berry does, point out that, and what you were saying, Scott, about the amount of education, and then plus the hoops that you have to jump through for billing and for just, and then you have to tick the boxes, and they're on the computer more. They're filling in all these forms and blanks, and so bad behavior is never excusable necessarily, but when you stop and think about what they probably went in all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, they were going to save lives, they were going to help people, and then they got stuck in this mucky system, and I'm sure, and then they've got student loans they got to pay off. They've got, and everybody jokes about their nice cars, and they probably do have nice cars, but they're probably also paying out the wazoo in payments. And so basically they're not any better off than anybody else because they're paying back student loans, they're paying high car notes, they're paying these high house notes, they're stressed to the max. And there again, I'm not excusing ugly behavior, but at the same time, when you look at it that way, I feel for them. And then if somebody is rude or condescending to me, I'm just going to not see them again.
Yes.
I'm sorry, diarrhea of the mouth, and it's getting later. I might be punch drunk or something. I don't know.
Well, I think we all are pretty much preaching to the choir here. We understand that this is the state of play, but it brings it right back to the original premise. We are the captains of our ships. And if we can go to our medical providers informed and with grace, we'll probably get a lot further along than we will by being confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think what you said was spot on there, Carrie. It is getting late and probably getting really close time for me to pull the plug on my stream. But, you know, it is in these venues that we will hone our own thoughts and become more capable in making a defense or talking about things. And I think each of us brings to bear important aspects of how do we interact with our world. You know, eventually we're going to have to leave our camp, our tribe, and face the world when we go out into it. And here we're hearing ways to sit there and say, when someone says, "Hey, you guys are crazy. I don't know what the heck you're doing," because we're fighting. How many years has it been since Eisenhower was our president? Anybody know? Is that mid-50s? Mid-50s,
yeah,
right?
in the mid-50s, like 50, yeah.
56 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when Ike Eisenhower had his heart attack, and the senator from South Dakota, they all started doing all this stuff with the food pyramid, and they said that Ike had his President Eisenhower had his heart attack because he ate a lot of red meat because the cigarette lobby had that all tied up, and he was smoking 3 packs of Camels a day, right?
Non-filtered Camels.
Right, non-filtered. So
so it was like the more bad of bad, but
right. But so you found one group to demonize another group, right? To shift the blame. So we're fighting 70 years of programming. We're only going to be, I feel, we're only going to be successful when we can be conversant in the currency that's being used today, knowing that there's another currency out there like mental acuity, depression, anxiety reduced. I don't know how you measure. I do know how you measure, but less inflammation in your body, right? How do you quantify that to a guy or a gal standing next to you? You know,
right.
You just have to sit and say, this is what my numbers are. This is how I feel. And I'm working with my doctor. And my doctor says, hey, it's working for you. Carry on. By the way, if you have any questions, go to this website. You know,
I can make it real simple for them. My knee didn't move before, and it does now.
There you go. Sometimes, short and sweet and to the point.
That's right. So, well, with that, I think first of all, what I'd like to go around the horn. So I'd like to start with you, Woodster. Any last comments for the group this evening?
guess just like you said, you need to focus on your why, focus on your goals, and I'd say one day at a time, because that's all it takes to get off track, but it's also all it takes to get back on. So one day at a time.
Good point. Good point. We don't have to make it any more difficult to get back on, right?
Yep.
All right. How about you, Karen? Any last comments for the goodness of the group?
Well, I'll answer your question you asked before about goals for the week. I hit a scale goal today, so I have to make some more new scale goals and contemplate this next 40 pounds that I really need to. That's my next segment. So I have to figure out how I'm going to put that into the smaller goals that are easy to win.
That's good. Good. It's always great to have a long-term and an intermediate one. And it always leaves you, as Carrie would say, you've always made a backup, a save point. So when you get to it, like your mountain climbing, right? And you put your baton in there and you get to move, and then you got something to save you if you have the inevitable setback. So that's good on you, Karen. And I'm glad you shared that. How about you?
I'm going to start trying to do a little more weightlifting, just some simple stuff. My knees aren't very good, and I'm not very stable yet on my legs. The weight loss is helping, but I'm still not yet. And so I just have to do something to burn more calories, to burn, more fuel while I'm in my intermittent fasting. While I know I'm in ketosis, that's when I need to really ramp it up.
Good. I'll be excited to hear over the next week and coming weeks what you're doing for resistance training and how you're meeting those goals. Good on you.
I have some free weights, and I ordered a set of bands today, like Bill Knott has.
Okay, cool.
The stretchy bands.
Good on you. Okay, Carrie, your turn. What you got for us?
2 things that I plan on doing this week. One is cooking a steak somehow.
Sous vide. I hear it's all the thing.
Oh, and 2, I'm going to decide on what type of dumbbells I'm getting. Not what type, but what brand, because I'm wanting to start doing the slow burn exercises. And what you do when you do that, it's other people, there's another term for it. But anyway, basically you're lifting the heaviest thing you can lift, but you're lifting it very slowly, and you only get in like 2 or 3 reps. And the problem with that is you're not using the same weight for each exercise. So I want to make sure that the plates are easy to take on and off, to attach and reattach, detach and reattach. So I've just got to do some research into that, but I'm more likely to do those than I am to go to a gym. And I already know that. I go walk, I meditate every morning, then I go walk for about generally 1.5 to 2.5 miles, depending on the route that I take. And then I log in for work at 7. So I just know that at the end of the day, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to do it. So I need to get the weights to have here, and I just got to decide what to get.
And that's important. If you got to know where your hills that you're going to die on, or the ditch you're going to die in, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would recommend in your search for information, you search and learn about what you need to do to get your tendons and ligaments strengthened before you lift the heaviest weight. It is my experience and my understanding that your muscles can initially be much stronger than your tendons. And there's a part in your tendon called the Golgi area. And what it does is it tries to save the muscle and everything from getting damaged. That's why you'll get cramps at times. That's why acupressure works, because it takes about 30 seconds of pressure on that to let it reset. But if you talk to Robert Bubba Baker, he was on here a little earlier. He was a power lifter. You want to spend a month or 2, and I know Woodster is probably dying to talk here, but you want to spend a month or 2 with light weights to get those ligaments strengthened, because you can lift a heavy weight a lot of times. You could take a 2-pound dumbbell and do 100 curls, but you won't use your arms for 3 days after that. And you could actually get a bicep muscle tear. So do some research with that type of idea about if you're a beginner lifter, what do I do to strengthen my tendons? And I highly recommend body weight exercises.
Oh, I already do those.
Okay, good. So do your research to make sure that your ligaments and your tendons are prepared for the assault that you're going to put on. Because like Woodster went into sprinting, and I'm sure, he stretched out, he warmed up. Stretching out cold is worse. It's better that you do some movement and then do your thing and stretch out in your cooling down phase. But do that research to make sure that you are as safe as possible with your tendons, because you tear something and you'll be a believer about a lot of things. Yes, you will.
And I just want to tell everybody that I've truly enjoyed this. This has been so much fun. And I love actually putting faces to the names. And I just enjoy the camaraderie and the support. So I love you guys. And that's all. And everybody have a happy Monday.
Well, pulling it down here to the last part here. First, I just want to say thank you to the people who were kind enough and brave enough, if you want to say, to come on and put their faces on the camera. I appreciate you each coming in here and sharing this evening. And Woodster, I like what you're doing with your DSLR.
We're trying.
You might want to bring you're either looking at a screen, you got a lot of off-camera look.
Yeah, the camera's over here.
So when you go,
my cord
I
is like
that.
3 feet long, so I can't get it over in front
Oh,
of me.
man.
Like I said, I'm just testing it out.
I understand that, but as you look back to it, as we're iron sharpening iron, we'll work on that. Karen, thank you for coming in. I've never had the opportunity to have you on screen before, and you just jumped in, so thank you. And we are so lucky to have you here, because you are, if in all things, you are absolutely to the point. There's no beating around the bush, and I think that's an important thing for us to have in this community. So thank you for coming on. And
No problem.
And Carrie, thank you. I see you out there. You're all over the place, and now I get, like you said, the face and the name. And I just hope that everybody really has a fantastic week. And for all the people out there in the comment section, appreciate you for doing things. If you haven't followed everybody who's been either in comments or otherwise, please take the time to do that, because that's another way we will grow our community and get our voices heard.
And real quick on that note, I have a new channel that I started under this name, Karen's Carnivore Journey. I just haven't done any videos yet. I'm working on, that's another goal for this week. I sat and wrote out last night about, notes for 3 different videos. I have one short that I put there, but I haven't published it yet because there was nothing to go with it to explain it. So that's also on my list. But look for videos.
Is it all one word?
Soon.
Is it all one word, no spaces?
No, it does have spaces. It's written just the way I have it in the box here.
Okay. All right.
I'm not seeing it. I looked it up. I don't see the channel yet, but keep looking.
Probably because there's no videos there and it's not active, really. I have to publish something, I think, before you all can see it.
Well, okay. What we'll do is, now, if anybody wants to reach me, all you have to do is go Carnivore Scott with no spaces at gmail.com, and I'll respond, and we can work things out. Maybe, Karen, when you have an opportunity to get something published or do something, let me know through an email so I can get to it, and I can publish and share and like, and we can generate the algorithm interest.
I will. I can send you a link once I get it going.
And my email address is also in my about section or whatever on my channel, but it's my metamorphosis, one word, at gmail.com.
All right. Sounds great. So again, thank you all. You all have a blessed evening and a great week ahead, and we'll see you around the network somewhere. Okay.
Oh yeah. We'll be running into each other soon. Probably tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Good night.
Okay. Good night. God bless.
God bless you too.